Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming to our webinar. This is the last one for the year. So if you've kind of missed all the past ones, are on our YouTube channel. But really quickly, I'm Emily. I'm the community manager, and I have Simone here with me. And we are going to be featuring her and her story as to how she became a UX designer, and then talk about maybe past careers, how that kind of intersected, all that fun stuff. But really quickly, setting some house rules. If you've been here before, you know the drill. Please say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're from. Share your LinkedIn, network, all that fun stuff. If you have questions along the way, please toss them in the questions tab, just so that way I see them. I may miss questions in the chat. So folks, if you're in the chat and you see folks put questions in the chat, please direct them to the questions tab for me, so that way we can keep this webinar moving as smoothly as possible. Cool. So we have folks from Oakland, Vegas, Florida, Chicago, so everyone all over the country. This is awesome. And also happy Friday. Simone and I were just talking about how cold it is on both sides of the country, and our definitions of cold are very different. Simone is in New York, I am in San Diego, and we're both very cold right now. So, so thank you all so much for being here. We're going to get started. So I'd love to actually hand it over to Simone to introduce herself really quickly, and we'll dive in with some questions. So again, if you have questions along the way, please put them in the questions tab, and we'll kind of pivot over to the audience questions. Simone, take it away.
Thanks. Yes, thank you so much for having me. So yeah, I'm Simone. I'm from the Bay Area. I saw a couple Bay Area folks. I'm from Berkeley, California, so right next to Oakland. And yeah, I'm a UX researcher apprentice at Asana.
That's awesome. So Simone, I mean, I know a little bit of your background just because of the info you've given me, but for everyone who didn't get a chance to read the description, Simone used to be a chef. And tell us about that. Like, what made you decide to transition? I'm sure you get this question a lot, but you know, I'm a career switcher myself. A lot of folks in Designlab are also career switchers, as you well know. So we just kind of like to hear kind of what kind of drove everyone to the decision of why I wanted to become a UX designer. And then like, I would love to hear like the parallels that maybe you've seen in your past career and like what you're learning right now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so funny how often I do get asked this question, but I still always am like, what did happen? So I was in the food industry for like 10 years actually, and was like fully experiencing this one very clear trajectory for a long time. And but always knew that like I had a lot of different things that I was interested in, and so knew that like I wouldn't be cooking forever. And yeah, I co-founded a catering company and social enterprise that I was running mostly in Oakland actually, and throughout the Bay Area, and I was the chef of that up until about 2019, May of 2019, and decided to leave after realizing that okay, it was time for something new, even though I didn't really know what that was yet. So I spent a few months actually from summer of 2019 to really about a year trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do. Because of that, I had to really spend a lot of time in between. Really, first I was really just like trying to find it in myself to believe that I could do something else other than work in the food industry. Because I had this very specific set of skills that didn't feel applicable anywhere else. And yeah, so I had to do this kind of like this reckoning with myself for a long time. And a lot of the time was during the pandemic, so I had nothing to do but just like go inward. So I did. Thankfully, I had just moved back in with my mom, so I had the fortune to be able to like not work and just really take the time that I needed. So yeah, I think what drew me and why I decided to pursue UX was, I like creative things in general. I think that's just the way that I tended for a long time. And I have done some design related stuff throughout my career, whether it's designing marketing materials for stuff related to my business. We ran a Kickstarter campaign, so I was doing a lot of the marketing and collateral for that. I am also really deeply involved with a local community and like a grassroots community, and so I've done a lot of like organizing and have made just like design stuff for flyers. So I knew that like I liked that kind of thing already, but I never had thought of it as like a career in any way. So I was starting to think about like maybe it's graphic design, maybe that's the thing that I wanted to do. And then funny enough, really, it was the same day I was thinking like, maybe I'll start pursuing or looking into like graphic design courses or something, that a friend of mine asked me if I had ever heard of UX design. And I hadn't. So I looked into it, and I was very excited about it. It just seemed really interesting, because it had the creative design element to it, of course. But beyond that, it really, really did a deep dive into like the humans at the center of the product, and like problem solving, and like there was this very dynamic space that seemed really interesting to me and intriguing. I think for me, graphic design would have been really fun and interesting, but I think the way my brain works, it like wants a bunch of different like elements to my job. Like maybe sometimes I'm making things, but then sometimes I'm like talking about the problem for hours, or maybe sometimes I'm like just thinking about the person for a long time and what problems that, so I think that was what really drew me to UX specifically, was like it taking many different forms depending on the time, and also the real lens on like the angle being so fixated on the human at all times.
So when you were a student, you went through UX Academy and you learned the steps, right? Like the kind of the full design process, as we call it, right? In phase one, when you were learning all that, did you have any like aha moments of like, wait a minute, hold on here. If we like take away the actual design aspect of it, I've been doing this my whole life, or like I've been utilizing this skill set. Did you have any of those moments?
Yeah, probably. Feels like so long ago now, but
Yes.
I think so. Well, I guess to backtrack for a second, once I did this kind of like reckoning with myself and realizing actually I do have skills that translate, then I think it was easier for me to look into other things. So like, yes, I think I had already started to see the skills that I could apply other places. And then as I was starting to go through like problem solving, flexibility, like adapting and lots of things, communication, collaboration, making things, right? So many things. And I mean, even this was part of like my pitch when I would talk to people when I was interviewing, that like I was already doing user experience design. I was making food. Even like when I was a line cook before I was a chef. And like when you're a line cook, you're plating things back to back to back. And like you might be going really fast, you might be making a lot of things, but you have to also make sure that the quality is the same. You might be plating a bunch of things, but you have to think about how the person is going to eat it, right? Like I can't put the biscuit on top of carrots. I don't know. I just thought of two very random things, but like that just wouldn't make sense. So like it could look pretty, but what's the end experience that we're creating for someone? So that was really like the biggest overlap. My work has always revolved around, okay, cool, but how's that person going to do when it gets to them with whatever it is that I'm making?
Yeah, for sure. And at least for me during pandemic, I learned how to cook. So fun fact, everyone, I learned how to cook. I know how to cook my own things now. But a lot of the help came from like watching a lot of cooking shows and actually having like trying to actually understand like their process and how they like exactly what you said, how they think about the journey of someone's like experience from when they sit down with and they have a plate placed in front of them, what they see, what they taste, like all these things. I had no idea that, like taste, texture, all of this stuff is a factor for a chef. So I love that you're bringing this up because number one, we kind of indirectly answered Graham's question, ex-chef for 20 years, asking, how you tailored your resume to your hospitality background. So long story short, a lot of us who come from either service industry, customer service, all the soft skills matter. All the soft skills, it really is that. So I would preach that like to no end. Like that is probably way more important than learning how to like use Figma. Anybody can learn to use a tool, but honing your soft skills, I would say, is probably one of the more important parts of being a UX designer.
100%.
Yeah. Totally. All right, cool. So we're going to backtrack, or I guess we're going to forward a little bit. So you learned about UX design and you're talking about, oh my God, there are these parallels. I've been doing this. So how did you reconcile with yourself and say, I'm going to do this? And then, while you're going through the program, like, how was your experience?
Yeah. Well, again, I was really, really fortunate because I wasn't working, so got a big unemployment check, and like unemployment took me like a year to get. So by the time, or like 10 months. But by the time I got it, I had this huge chunk. So I was so fortunate to get to just like make the decision for myself and just like invest in this program. It was scary to take that leap, but I have no regrets whatsoever. And yeah, it was really cool to build a portfolio and like um, kind of learn for the first time what I had no idea. Like, what I was like, what is this? I love it, but like, what is it going to look like for me to do it? I had no idea. So to get to do that over and over again, and what I loved about Designlab was that it wasn't a lot of things that I read about different boot camps is like, yeah, but all your portfolios look the same because like so many of the case studies look the same. But I love that Designlab gave me the flexibility to stay in certain parameters, but also decide what it was that I wanted to focus on. So I was really able to like focus on things that I actually was excited about and like interested in and would want to do in real life. So that was really fun. It was also very stressful to be doing something brand new, and you're like, am I doing this right? Like, hello. But I think what is something that I came to love about UX that I didn't realize was a thing really before was that like, yes, there are best practices. Yes, there are like rules and like, there's guidance around how to build the best product based on information that we have and that we've collected and that will continue to evolve. And like, I had to really do a lot of unlearning around like right and wrong and like, is this right? Is this wrong? So I'd like always be sending things to my mentor, like, is this the right way to do this? Thinking that it was not, assuming that I was doing it wrong. But him always being like, yeah, that's great. Keep going. Like, or change it a little bit, but like you're doing great. Like this, you're on the right track. And that was really cool because just my brain, I've never not that I didn't do well in school, but school was really hard for me because just the way that my brain works, it's just not doesn't fit into like this very linear idea of what yeah, smart is in an institution. Yeah. So I had to do a lot of like accepting of how my brain works and accepting of like how my like my ideas are, and that they're good ideas or they're ideas that need work, or maybe they're bad ideas, but that doesn't mean I'm dumb. And I think Designlab was a really cool place to explore that, just because of like the way that things were set up and the way that I was learning a new thing that is really a lot of that at its core is like about brainstorming and then trying a thing and then trying it again in a different way if it doesn't work, but not necessarily coming to one final answer that you get an A on and then you pass and then it's done. Yeah, it's cool.
No, I love it. And I love that you're telling it in this way, because I think that's, at least for me, like I've gone through UXA as well. You know my story. I'm sure you've heard my story. I've been in the community for a very long time. And I think the one thing that I would love for just anyone who's considering the industry, or even, going through the program, or even just finish that, like you said, it's nothing about UX is linear. And that, I think that's why I love about it. And like, you're talking about how you learn, and I'm sitting here like nodding furiously because I'm exactly the same way. Like, I think as you're talking about, your learning process, your learning style, I'm now seeing like parallels, right? As a chef, like you may have been taught all of these skills and how to wield a knife, how to cut things, how to do all these things, but you also learn your own way. You figure out what works for you. And I think that is really the core of what UX and product design is. It's, the fundamentals, but don't feel like you have to put yourself in a box, right? And I think that's like, for people like you and me, at least that's what I'm learning from so many conversations out there, that like UX is just like this industry that allows people to think in the way that they want to think, in the way that best suits them, but they're also able to take into account like, well, I don't really want to make the decision for me because it's not really for me, but now I can say all these people want these things and here's the data to prove it, right? So like, I think that's what I love about it. And now you're a UX research apprentice at Asana, so we can kind of pivot to that. I think I may have remember reading something that you had written, that you didn't think that you were going to go the research route, but all of a sudden you're here. So tell us about that. Someone in the questions tab asked, how did you land the apprenticeship at Asana? So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about that, but I would really love to know, what the apprenticeship is about, and what are you learning, like what makes you like excited about like doing it every single day?
Oh my God, you guys, it's so much fun. I love going to work, which is crazy. I was thinking yesterday, I was like so excited to go to work. And I was just thinking, oh, like, is this weird of me to be this excited to go for it? But it's so much fun. One, it's just like really cool. Like we love our jobs. It's really cool to work in a place where like everyone's excited, especially I was serving before I got this job. We all have fun doing that, but we also are tired of it a lot of the time. So but yeah, it's a lot of fun going to work. Okay, so I guess I'll start at how I got it and then what it's like. So yeah, okay, networking is huge. It's like such an important part of the process of finding a job, and I learned that through this process because I would just reach out to people on LinkedIn, like to connect, to ask questions, and yeah, just like really built my LinkedIn network. And I think that gave me a level of confidence that allowed me to just like, when I saw I had already been building my network. Some people had like reached out to other people on my behalf and all that, and were like helping me make connections, which was really amazing. And that's really what gave me the confidence, just be like, you know what, I'm just gonna like reach out. I had actually was like trying to like, just when I saw, okay, let me rewind. I saw an apprenticeship for a product design role, and I was like, oh my God. So I like started going online. I started asking all my friends, people I know that work in tech, people that I know that don't, but maybe have connections, and asking them if they knew anyone that worked at Asana. Cause I just had a feeling that like, it was going to be like people to people. It wasn't going to be me just like sending in an application and hoping it gets to the right place. So when no one I knew anyone at Asana, my actually Designlab career coach was like, just reach out to some of the, people on the talent acquisition team. So I reached out to a few people, and I just like kind of gave them like a short version of my cover letter. Like I just like condensed it into like what someone would be okay with reading in a LinkedIn message, like not very long, enough so that it's like quick enough, right information, clear call to action. And I also attached my resume and my link to my portfolio. And I said, I'd love to get connected to the right person, would love to talk more about this, da, 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 da. And I don't remember how many people I reached out to, but 2 of them responded. And one of them was like, let me find the right person. And the other one was like, here's so-and-so's email, like just email them directly. So I did. And did the whole thing. They responded, and we had a screener interview, and then I went through the whole process and got to the final round of interviews. I was like top 3. I didn't get it, and I was so crushed. I was like, this is it. I'm done. This might be the moment where I throw in my towel. I was so, I was just really, really so sad. It was the closest I'd gotten to getting a job, and yeah, to not get it was heartbreaking. But that same recruiter said, we have a research apprenticeship coming up. And she also said that like the team is so upset that they couldn't hire 2 apprentices. And like they said, like, please do anything you can to get Simone in the door. So she said, we have a research apprenticeship coming up. And if you're interested in it, I will connect you to the right people. So I said I was. And then a few weeks passed and I didn't hear anything, because she said it was like going to be in a month or something. So I reached out again, and she was like, oh, Simone, I was just about to reach out to you. If you're still interested, we can like connect you, set you up and all that stuff. So I didn't have to like resubmit my application or anything. She just connected me right away. I didn't have to have a screener. She just connected me to the hiring manager, went through the interviews. Actually, I think I went through before the application even opened to the public. Like, I think they just like kind of express lane me through the process. And yeah, I got it, and I got the job, and it was amazing. It was amazing, period, because it feels like this thing that you just like never ever gonna get. Like, it's just like, I'm sure everyone here knows that feeling. If you're not going through it now, you will at some point feel just like this is never gonna happen. Maybe there are a lucky few who don't go through that, but yeah, so just to get so close to like giving up, and then having so many people be so excited to have me on the team and like work so hard to make sure that happens. that was incredible. And now I like work in the same office as the two people that connected me to the recruiter, and I met my recruiter. She's based in San Francisco, but I was out there a few months ago and got to meet her in person. And yeah, it's just been an amazing experience so far. So that's how I got the apprenticeship, and it's incredible. I mean, it's so it's like for people that have a hard time, you know, who are facing barriers to job placement in the tech industry, specifically people who come from boot camp, stuff like that, who maybe don't have as many resources or have had as many resources available to them. And it's like, I mean, at this point, I'm, I think 5 months in, 4 to 5 months. And the goal is for me to convert to full time after 6 months, which is when in February. And honestly, at this point, other than like kind of asking questions and like maybe getting additional support as needed, in many ways, I don't actually feel very different from just like a junior researcher at Asana. Like I've been given a lot of agency, a lot of like, I'm working right now directly with my manager and the head of research on this really exciting project that that's happening in January, and like just been given like a lot of responsibility, and it's really fun. Yeah, I didn't see myself in research, but now I'm like, oh yeah, like it's a different kind of brain exercise than what I was expecting for myself, because I'm so used to creating in these very particular ways that are like, I made this thing and now visually here's the thing that I made. This is a very different process, even though I work very closely with designers, and like I even met the hiring team, some of the hiring team from the design, and they're like, if you ever want to work in design, like there's space for you. Like it's not, please, like, you know, she really actually wants me to be in the design world a little bit more. So there's also space for that fluidity, but yeah, it's a different way of really being creative and like exercising this analytical part of my brain that I think I kind of going back to like the way that our brains work and making these assumptions about based on the institution. I think at a young age, I kind of just decided for myself, like, well, I'm not necessarily like a science or a math person. I'm more of an arts person. But this is so, you know, that's so not true. I just haven't been in settings that have like really allowed me and encouraged me to think in these new and interesting ways that are super engaging. So yeah, I'm having a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's so awesome to hear. I have a burning question, which is, did your expectations or did reality meet your expectations when you started the apprenticeship? Like, did you have expectations? What were they? And how does it actually fall in line with reality?
Yeah. I think that the only thing that I expected was a little bit more like homework. Like I thought that I would be doing like more curriculum based homework in the apprenticeship, which was not good or a bad thing. I just thought, oh, I'm kind of like a student here, when really it's like I'm just working, and I'm just a part of the team. And when I clock out, I clock out. I don't like do extra homework to turn in to my teacher on Monday or anything like that. It's just like you just happen to be less knowledgeable in these things and less experienced in these things. So we are here to help you. Another thing that that is different, as a woman of color, a Black woman in a non-Black woman dominated space. In fact, I think we're like one of the smallest numbers that make up the tech industry. I was expecting, and I'm still very new, but I was just expecting a lot more tension around me and to always feel like oh yeah, like I am the only Black person here, cool. Which sometimes I am, a lot of times I am, but also there are a lot of efforts to shift that, and I can feel it. And also like on my program team, there's only one white person, which is pretty, it's like nothing. I just think the diversity of that is really, really cool. So I think I was expecting, and I'm sure that there are places that there are, you know, definitely more aggressively white spaces, but I can really see like there's like lots of pushes to shift that and really create spaces within the company that where everyone feels like they have a voice. And, you know, of course it's still tech and like it's still shifting and evolving in many ways, but yeah, I feel welcomed in many ways that I was afraid that I wouldn't.
That's really awesome to hear. Are there any like specific things or initiatives that Asana does that you feel like maybe other tech companies should learn from or can learn from?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what other tech companies are doing and not doing, but we have like groups for different people of diverse backgrounds, which I'm sure other companies are doing that. And then yeah, I mean, well, what's really cool is actually in one of my first weeks, I was, you know, Asana as a platform. We use Asana, like Asana uses Asana. We use Asana for everything. So we don't really use email or like everything's in Asana. And Asana is a very transparent, like as a platform, you just see everything. You see what other people are writing, you see what other tasks people have most of the time. And yeah, just like have been able to really see a lot of like, you know, it's not just this performative, like, oh, we are like trying to be more inclusive, but I was really able to see a lot of like the stuff that they're talking about around like their plans to create more inclusivity from the ground up and top down. So I think that like conversations are being had. And actually I asked my hiring manager, who's my now manager, who's really very amazing. In my final interview, I asked her, like, what as a company are you all doing and as a team to really ensure that like no groups feel like underrepresented? And yeah, she gave a very candid answer about like what she wants to do and how important that is for her as a like personally and as a team. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers the question because I don't know. I don't know what other companies are doing, but yeah. Sorry.
No, I think the one thing that we can take away from this is that everyone should probably use Asana. So fun fact, Designlab also uses Asana. We're a very small team. So the transparency, like you said, like to be able to see what other people are doing, the conversations they're having, it makes working in a completely remote environment where everyone is spread at Designlab like throughout the world. It allows us to kind of remain like in communication all the time, or at least in the know without anyone feeling like they're left out. So I think if anything, that's what we can take away is that everyone should just use Asana if you want to have full transparency and have like the most candid and just like streamlined conversations and just like use it to like organize your life. I use Asana to organize my life on a daily basis. So
me too. Yeah, I recently moved into my own place and I like have a going list of like what I need to buy now. What are like my what are my little treats that I'll buy myself but yeah, I like prioritize them. Yeah, it's a great tool.
I love it. Well, let's actually pivot over to what does your day-to-day look like? So you're an apprentice, but you know, like you said, like it's a job. At the end of the day, it's a job. Do you have mentorship? Like what does a day-to-day like look like for you?
Yes, I do have mentorship, and we meet once or twice a week. And day to day really depends on what is going on. But the cool thing about Asana is that you feel like you're really working on things. Like I don't ever feel like I'm just kind of like filling in things to, you know, be working for someone else, but it's like, oh, we are working on like developing this feature or this, you know, this piece of the product, and we are going to like run tests on it. So I mean, day to day, easily I could be leading or supporting and running usability tests either as a researcher, or we like have like a DIY program where designers and project managers will do their own testing with our support. So could be running the tests, planning the tests, or like helping them write the guides, or kind of supporting and just note taking and stuff, and then analyzing the data from that. So we'll record all the sessions and then go through them, and kind of like we use a platform called Dovetail where we'll tag like most important things that we took away. And yeah, from there, have conversations about it together with the team, think through like, okay, what are the things that we're seeing the most? Like, what are the most common pain points that we're noticing? Do we want to act on this now? Do we want to like do more tests? Does this feel like something we should like move forward on and like work on right now? Or does it feel like maybe we do it in the next iteration of this product? So that's one piece of day to day. But the thing about researchers is that there's like 23 of us total, and there's like 18. We're like 1,800 people in the company. So we researchers work with like 3 to 5 teams on different pieces of the product. So it's kind of hard. Like, so, you know, researchers can on any given day be working on multiple parts of a product process. If they're, you know, if one product is like, you know, just about to be launched, or another is like, you know, being in like concept testing, you know, so it's a little bit, yeah. So like right now, we just launched one feature, the first iteration of it, wrapped usability testing for it, and now I'm supporting in putting together a research report to talk about like what we did, what's next, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm helping to like pull quotes from the interviews that we did, and like add those, pull clips and stuff like that, and add those to the deck. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, but it changes all the time because we're working on different projects. So it's, yeah, it can very much depend on the week.
So who drives the research initiatives? Is it mainly discovery? Is it mainly just usability testing? What avenues of research like touches the Asana product?
All of them. Asana is a very research heavy, human-centered company. We don't report to design. We report directly to product. So yeah, so we very much like we work alongside design. So yeah, so research, like we do a lot of foundational research. In fact, every other Thursday, I think the whole research team has a meeting where we talk about, it's called TTT, like, and we talk about themes, truths, and threads, things that we're like noticing, things that maybe, do we want to explore these more? Are these like important salient pain points? So they can be new, they can be old, even, you know, we'll go through like what's kind of been in the backlog and talk about, oh, has anyone else noticed this? Like in any other areas of the process? So, or of the product. So yeah, it can really range. I mean, actually, in fact, I was doing some research, some discovery research for something that started as one thing. It was like a designer and a data scientist wanted to improve this one part of our product. But for me personally, I wanted to like I want to understand it better before I ran usability tests. So I just did some discovery research and did some just interviews on like how the current state of it and like how people are interacting with it now. And it turned into this whole other thing. We didn't even end up doing the usability test. We actually like tabled it and like it turns out like this whole area of our product has like so many pain points, and it's like, let's look at these and let's look through like, oh, what are all these existing pain points that we haven't really touched in a while, and from there, like what might we want to put on the roadmap for next year? So yeah, it's very fluid. There's not like one specific direction. It's like what's feeling loudest and how might we address it.
I love that. So it sounds like research at Asana really has a hand in like saying what the priorities are, either for like the next quarter, the next half, the next year. That's incredible. Mainly because, right, if everyone knows, usually these kind of roadmappy things come from everyone who's higher up. They sit there in a room. You have no idea whether or not they've gone through any sort of research, but they just somehow have an idea that they want to do something. So I love to hear it. Is there like a formal process in which like you guys say, okay, we want to figure out, we want to learn more about this one area? Is there a process that you guys have to follow in terms of like, okay, what needs to be done? Who's going to do it? What's the timeline here? Like, what are the logistics around that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm not really sure.
You're like, it just goes by so fast. We do everything.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there is like a whole product process, of course. But I think, yeah, like I haven't really, I think I'm still so new that like I don't fully know it. Um, yeah, there is certainly like, hey, we really want to work on this thing. Let's like put together a plan, validate it so that we can get the okay to like do it. Um, but there's also like, oops, I accidentally stumbled across this thing that seems really important. I'm gonna, at least that's what happened with me. Like, I'm gonna work on this and then like present it to. I ended up presenting it. We had like a jam where it was like me and a couple other cross functional partners from different areas where we talked about what I had found, and then like, oh, this is, yeah, let's figure out how we can take these, present them, and then like talk about how we might want to explore them more next year. So there's certainly a level of like making sure that we are validating the things that we want to work on. So yeah, but I don't know all the way yet.
That's okay. Everything's a learning process,
Yeah,
right? And yeah,
totally.
no, I love that. And I love hearing you talk about this, mainly because right when you go through UX Academy, we have our nice research portion at the very
Wow.
beginning, and you sit there and you're like, you want me to do what now? You want me to run what survey? You want me to put together a presentation? Who am I
Right.
presenting this to? So you keep talking about presentations. So normally who do you present to, and how, and if you ever have to like convince them of anything, like has there ever been a time where you haven't been able to convince someone that like this should be a priority, or is that maybe on someone else's plate right now? Tell us more about that.
Hmm. Haven't been there yet, but I'm sure it'll happen. Yeah, and a lot of the stuff, like sometimes things are presented, sometimes it's just like we create a deck and like we send them out, we create a deck and then we put them into like our findings library, stuff like that. But I have done presentations before and they can be nerve wracking. But I think, yeah, it's like Asana is it's very collaborative in many ways. So even like when I was putting together my insights from the research I had done, at first I was like, okay, I think I have to have this like whole polished thing that I like present as like, this is my final report. This is what I found. These are the things that I think we should do. But after talking, what's another cool thing about having being an apprentice is we have round robins. So my manager made organized these meetings where like I think it's like once a month or something. It's like three to five other researchers join, and like I have a question or like, and then or something that I'm trying to figure out, and then all these people with their varying like perspectives and ideas share their what they think. So through a round robin, I realized, oh, I don't have to have this like final thing to present. We can like, I can bring what I'm thinking and my into like what I'm learning so far into a fig jam, and we can all talk about it together and align together. So I don't have to, it's not a convincing, it's like, what do you guys think? Does this feel right? Like, does this feel in line with what you guys have been hearing and feeling? No? Yes? Okay, well then how do we move forward from that? And so then that feels really good. It's like, I'm not alone in this. We decided on this together, right, guys? This is our these are our findings.
I love that. I think I mentioned this earlier, but I think one of the best things about being a UX designer is that you need to actually convince other people that like, no, we need more than my opinion. It's
Mhm.
not, we're not designing for me, we're not just designing for us, we're designing for a lot of other people.
Wow.
So I love that. I love that so much. I guess, in terms of, we're going to go back to networking for a little bit. Like, are there any kind of things that you recommend people doing, or things that maybe didn't work so well in terms of like your outreach on like LinkedIn or like just messages to other people? Anything you have to share about that?
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think like, well, I think don't be afraid to like just reach out to people. And even if you don't know who they are, like the worst they can do is not respond, right? The best they can do is respond. And like get you a job. That's the best, like that's amazing. Um, but also I think having a very clear ask is important. Um, and it's okay to be direct about what that ask is, but everyone's very busy. And so even I've since graduating, and I think I probably did this before, like just kind of reached out to people like, oh, I'd love to chat sometime about your experience. which I imagine is like, I think I've said it before, but I've also received these messages and I'm just like, okay, but then I don't really hear from people, which I'm like, that's fine. Like we can be in each other's network. I know you need a lot of people in your LinkedIn, right? You want to get those numbers up. So I'm totally fine with just connecting. But I also think I probably missed some opportunities, and we don't want to ever miss opportunities if, of like really actually connecting with people. So yeah, I think let's not be ambiguous. Let's be clear about what we want and what we're interested in. And of course, grateful, and brief in what we're writing. It's a hard balance, but an important one, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think like the other thing that I've at least learned throughout the years is, in Simone's case, there was an actual job posting that, so it kind of was like, okay, it made sense for her to reach out directly to someone who might be working at Asana, right? But, if you're just eyeing a company and maybe they don't have a position, maybe kind of don't say, I'm just looking for a job. Don't jump into a conversation like that. It's sometimes very off-putting. But, instead, like Simone said, make an effort to say you want to connect, learn about them first, make that personal connection before you say, and let me know if you guys are hiring, right? Because you kind of want to like have a really good first impression, even if it's on LinkedIn.
Totally. Actually, the first person I reached out to when starting to like reach out to random people was the now CEO of one of my like dream companies, like dream one day companies, and set up an informational interview and just like had a great chat. I was like just building my portfolio. And yeah, like I think, yeah, it was lovely. I sent her my portfolio, and then we just like had this connection. And then even like she lives in Brooklyn and that's where I live. And then not asking for a job. I'm very content, happy with where I am. But I just was like, hey, guess what? I got a job. Like also congrats on your, now being CEO, like great, and she was just like, anytime you want to get coffee or, I'm happy to be a resource for your career journey. So we don't have to have a specific like hard ask for a job, but just like, yeah, if you're interested in and curious about a certain company, ask them about it. We're all humans after all,
Definitely. And I think the one thing, at least for me, like you can tell, like the receiving person knows that if this is meant to be transactional, and sometimes that is off-putting. So again, right, like put your best foot forward, think about the type of conversation you would want to have with this person, even if it doesn't go anywhere now, it could very well go somewhere later. So you just never know, right?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, Paul does have a related question. He's asking, did you have any other methods of networking other than LinkedIn? Did you go to like events? Did you not like them?
I did go to I did go to an event. It was like we were like in COVID times, pretty heavy at the time. So I didn't really go to a lot of like in-person stuff, but I did go to it was a Afrotech networking event where I met someone who's actually a great friend of mine now, who like connected me to someone else through LinkedIn, who works at LinkedIn, who like posted about me and was like, this person's looking for a job and they're amazing. So that was really cool. And I had no idea how that connection would pan out. So yeah, I did. Not too many outside of LinkedIn. Because I feel like a lot of virtual networking, it just feel awkward for me. It's either like in person really, or, but like a kind of social gathering online feels, just doesn't feel very natural for me.
No, I hear you. I think like, as great as the concept of breakout rooms is, it's still very like awkward to like network on like a screen with like random people.
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, so icebreakers, maybe not.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I mean, we're probably going to wrap up in a little bit, but is there any advice or kind of tips that you have in general for folks who may be looking to transition careers into product design, or even maybe they're going through boot camp right now, but maybe there's that question of, do I need to specialize? Do I need to figure out what area? So I think you might be the very first person that I've talked to that's like, no, like I'm actually in a specific area, which is research. And I'm sure right at the beginning of Designlab, a lot of folks go in like, I just want to be a UI designer. I want to be, like, do I have to specialize? Do I generalize? So any tips that you have for anyone who is considering this field?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty like fluid industry, right? Like I might do research for the next 5, 10 years, 2 years, who knows? But I also know that there's like certainly space for me to shift around. So yeah, I mean, if you feel very, very strongly about specializing, then yes, absolutely. Go in and go hard, right? But also like if I had said no, if I had stuck to like, no, I only want to like design interfaces, then I would have missed out on like an incredible, incredible opportunity and an incredible foot in the door. Because like I said, one of the area leads is like, if you ever want to work in design, and is like, asking my manager, is Simone interested in design? So you just never know what kinds of um, connections that can make. And also like whether I stay in research or move to design, my interest in design only makes me a stronger researcher, and my research would only make me a stronger designer. So either way, it's great to have support, as many legs as possible. So yeah, I think, I just am so grateful that I didn't pigeonhole myself, because I would have, who knows, I maybe would have found something, but I feel like I'm at the best possible place in a perfect role that I would never have picked out for myself.
No, I love that. And I was pretty much going to say the same thing, like, don't pigeonhole yourself, only because, like Simone said, like, it's going to only make you stronger in the area that, you might care about a little bit more, but this all works together. Like, UX and UI cannot happen without research. Like, it's just, then you're just designing. There's no intent behind it. There's no purpose. You're not thinking about the humans, right? You're not thinking about the users. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a little bit similar, where I, took a job where it was mainly visual design, and that's not something that I excel at all, but pushing myself out of that comfort zone, just saying, you know what, like, knowing this is only ever going to make me better. I think that's probably a really great way that everyone, probably, in my opinion, I think everyone should kind of go in that way, like, always find ways to challenge yourself as a designer, or a researcher, right? Always find those ways, because that's only ever going to make you stronger in whatever you decide to do in the future.
Yeah.
I love that. So I guess as we're wrapping up, are there any things that you're, kind of, what's your outlook, in terms of like your career? Like, what are you hoping for?
Yeah, I could happily stay in research for a very long time. There is a lot to learn, and it is so interesting and like so engaging. And yeah, I eventually want to start a nonprofit. So I feel like even though I didn't mean to, the career that I'm in now is really like, feels a lot more in line with what I want to do, like my like one day goal. So yeah, in terms of, I mean, yeah, I could happily stay at Asana for a very long time. And then I have another, like I have my dream company that I'd like to go to at some point, but I feel like I feel like I'm learning so much right now that, yeah, I feel good about where I'm at. And in the 10-year in between, I don't have a lot of clear plans. I just know that like one day I'm going to do this, and where I'm here now, and somehow things are going to continue to move in that direction.
I love that. I am coming up to, like, it's shocking to say, but I am coming up to like my 10-year mark soon, in terms of like having transitioned from having worked in retail to being a designer. So I am completely with you. Like, people still ask me that question. They're like, so what's your next goal? I'm like, I'm still learning. Like, I still feel like I'm learning every single day. Like, there's never a day that I don't learn something new, whether it's I learn something new in Figma, I learn something new about our users, whatever it is. Like, and I think just that learning aspect of this industry alone is enough for me to be like, I'm going to die a UX person. Like, that's it.
Yeah. And it'll change forever and ever, and
I'll never get bored. I'm always, because like, I think that's a problem. Maybe that's the one thing also, is that like you're kind of force yourself to learn, right? Like, this industry forces you to learn. It forces you to keep up, because as technology grows, not that technology runs everything, but it certainly is becoming the backbone of a lot of things. That also forces us as designers and researchers to think about how users are using it, what their feelings are around this, and how can we design the best possible experience knowing what we know, right? I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Simone. Like, I love having you here, and I hope to see you in the community a lot more. If anyone who's here is part of the Designlab community, we would love to see Simone share any of her research wealth as she's learning, you know, and hopefully, you know, you do get to become that full-time employee at Asana. They're very, very lucky to have you. And I'm sure we're, you know, we would love to like kind of feature you later and say, tell us, you know, about a case study. We did feature someone named Kat last year who also works at Asana. And
Oh, Kat, yes. I know Kat.
she talked through like the goals feature in Asana. And it was funny because at that time when we had that presentation, Designlab just moved all of how we did goals to Asana as well. So we're like, now we get the backstory on how this is working.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Thank you. All right, audience. Thank you so much for being here. This was a great Friday. This was an awesome conversation. And now I know someone in New York, but also from the Bay Area. So wherever you go, there's always going to be Bay Area people around. We love it. We love it. So if anyone is curious, yes, this is recorded. You should receive this in your email. This will also be posted to YouTube. Follow us on all the social media. Connect with Simone on LinkedIn. You know, and find us. Ask us questions. I'm sure all of us would be happy to either talk to you about our Designlab experiences, our job hunting experiences. Doesn't matter how long you've been job hunting, a job hunt is a job hunt.
Yep.
It's not easy for anyone at any part of the career.
Yep. Please,
amazing.
I'm happy to continue these conversations.
We love it. Well, thank you for your time, Simone. You know, you feel free to follow up with me. I'll likely do the same. But to everyone here, thank you for spending an hour with us on a Friday, whether it's evening, morning, whatever time of day it is. We appreciate you being here. And we will see you all next time, probably in the next year. Thank you, everyone. Bye.